is Fiona Dillon. With me today is my marketing manager Sandy, and she's responsible for this lovely presentation we're going to see. And she's also here to keep me in order and to kick my ass really, in case I forget to tell you something. The title of this is, as you can see, Are Our Children Eating Their Way to Obesity? It's a very hot topic. It's a bit of a touchy subject. Nobody wants to really say those children are fat. And am I qualified to say that? Well, in actual fact, probably no. If you think I'm going to say to you I have a PhD or I'm a scientist or any of that, let me tell you about where I came from, because my learning has been literally from the ground up. In 2008, my husband and I lost everything. We lost our business, we had 4 children and we had absolutely nothing. We lived in County Carlow. We had about an acre of a garden that I hadn't seen in my corporate life because I was working 24/7. I decided to use that garden to start to grow food. So I learned to grow vegetables. I learned to grow vegetables organically. For someone that would just walk into the supermarket and buy organic vegetables, I thought because they were more expensive, they would be more difficult for me to grow. And over the years, I went from growing carrots and potatoes to keeping bees for honey, to keeping pigs in the garden for pork and bacon, to rearing the turkey for Christmas. I did it all. In 2010, I started to blog about it because I was a city girl who had moved to Carlow and had no experience. I remember my dad growing some vegetables many, many years ago, but I had no experience. But I realised that it was possible to do all of this. In 2010 I decided to blog about it. Didn't think that it was going to go anywhere, but it did. By 2011 I was writing for the likes of the Farmers Journal and going for all sorts of awards and things that I never thought was going to happen to me. By 2012 I got a call asking would I like to write a book about my story. And again I said to them, I am not a horticulturist, I'm not trained, I've done some very basic training in growing vegetables, but my stuff is really what I've learned the hard way. And that was exactly what they wanted. So in 2013 my first book came out, which was Food from an Irish Garden, and it was very well received. Sorry, I've been travelling and my voice is almost gone. It was very well received, and my publisher wanted me to do something lovely, another lovely lifestyle book about to inspire people. But what I had learned along the way was that children were so far removed from their food. They were so far removed from where potatoes came from food that was dirty, from the soil on the potatoes. There was such a disconnect, and I would have been one of those people, and my kids could have been those kids too, that really thought that milk was produced in a factory and that stuff was packaged and came from supermarkets. My publishers, when I said no, I want to write something, I want to talk to kids, I want to get involved with kids, they were no, that's not really a market. It's not really a nice market to talk about food and overweight kids and things like that. And I went out and I did my focus groups and I did my research, and at the end of 2014 teachers were saying to me that they had children in their classes eating chips that didn't know they came from potatoes. Now that's the truth. And it still gives me goosebumps, but it gave me enough of a motivation to continue on my journey. I spoke to my agent and said, how am I going to do this? And he said, you've got to get a brand on board that has the same ethos and the same idea about healthy eating. Now I have to say right now that my whole thing and everything you're going to see here revolves around fun and great crack and getting children involved in mysteries and adventure. There's no preaching, there's no judging anybody, because we've seen different schemes in schools and things that work and work half, work don't work, but you know what, children remember the fun things. So this whole thing that you're going to see is about fun. So basically last year I launched the Freddie Button series of books. You can see them there, a series of 6 books in conjunction with Glenisk. You might know Freddie Buttons if you're a fan of Glenisk yogurts. We're an on-pack promotion at the minute, collect tokens to get the series of Freddie Buttons books. That all came about because they had the same CSR policy, the same ideas as myself. We launched last year with an award-winning, I'm glad to say, Garden at Bloom. And this year then I set up Tumbledown Media, which is a company that is totally focused on Freddie Buttons and getting the message out to children about good food and where it comes from. We don't say healthy food, we say healthier food, because let's face it, everybody likes a little bit of something that's naughty, and that's not going to ruin your whole life. But it's all about balance and moderation, and about giving the children the choose to decide themselves. So, moving swiftly on, the sad fact of the matter is that we have 1 in 5 children are either overweight or obese in this country at the minute, and that is the truth, and the number is getting higher, so we've got to face that fact. Pardon? Yeah, so I'm going to say that in the next week. So the World Health Organization at the minute, if you look up their reports, they will tell you that by 2030 Ireland is going to be the most obese nation in Europe. And that really is quite shocking, because when we think of obese, we think of the States. We never think about our lovely country and our great food provenance and all of that. And we are, out of every country in Europe, we're going to be the biggest, the most obese, and of course the most unhealthy as well. Right, so don't take my word for it. I think it's very easy just for me to stand and say, oh, I'm really passionate about kids and food. Check out these reports, Board Bia and Kantar. These particular ones are really good at showing and proving to you that right now there is a change happening. There's a change happening for many reasons. We can see we're coming out of the recession, and definitely the economy, we are in recovery, and people are starting to spend more in the supermarkets. Health is a dominant issue. Those reports will tell you that there are 83% of people now consider health to be a dominant issue when they're in the supermarkets today. Customers are now buying for a cause, whether that's organic, whether it's Buy Irish, whatever it might be, whether it's the Freddie campaign, whether it's Super Value and Karma, but they're now more interested, because they have that extra little bit of spend, that they're focusing more on these sort of things. Okay, so that's all great. We know we have a problem, and what are we going to do about it? And I'm certainly not here to say that the government have failed, but we have done a lot of research, and we've done research into the likes of food dudes and what's going wrong. They're brilliant campaigns, but then they stop and they go away. So we wanted to do something very different, and we wanted to tackle it in a very different way. So what we're doing in 2017 is we're launching a national schools program, a Freddie Button's national schools program. It's going to be online with lots of fun competitions. We're going to get a league table going. We're going to get children all over this country talking about food, but not trying to outdo each other, or not trying to make parents feel guilty about what they feed their children, because that's not what we're about. We're not about judging. We're not about enforcing. We recently were talking to broadcasters from all over the world, and the one thing they said, we were talking about turning Freddie Buttons into a TV series, which I do hope will happen, but their whole thing was, it cannot be educational. It has to be fun. So what we've managed to do with Freddie Button so far online, we've an app coming out, and with the books, is that we've put in a fun food adventure in every single one of them. So children read them, and they don't realise that they're learning about eggs and honey and strawberries and where they come from and how they're good for you. The message, the educational message about food is actually, it's subliminal, it's second, because the first thing is food. I always say that as a kid, I remember reading The Elves and the Shoemaker. To this day, I still want those shoes. And what I want for children is to remember these stories. How Freddie went out and collected the apples, he went with his cousins, and they milked the goat. It's about learning. It's about, if we get them when they're really young, it's a message that they're not going to forget. So that really is our plan. And Sandy says I've forgotten something, so... yeah. So of course, to do this, we're going to need money. So what we're doing is we're tying in with corporate brands. Now, a lot of people immediately think, oh, corporate, that's not going to work with schools. The feedback has been excellent so far. And why we want to work with corporates is because we want to give them something as well. And of course, we want to fund our business. And we can do this with corporates by giving them all the things they need, like data capture and insights and brand awareness. We have the access to the children and to the parents, and we now, in 2017, will work day and night to access those children, but not just in 2017, in 2018 we'll be doing the same thing as well. We're doing cutting edge technology to keep the kids engaged, because it doesn't matter how cute the story is if you're not going to get the kids engaged. Engage with the kids and you're going to get them as customers, you're going to get their parents as customers, and at the end result is going to be healthier children and less obese children, and hopefully by 2013 we'll have done something to turn around that awful WHO statistic. Thanks guys.